Now, when a child of God walks in the word of God and it comes before God and remind God of what God said, that is putting God in a tight corner. God, in all his sovereignty, has bound himself to his word. In other words, the word of God is God's bond. So he has bound himself to his word. And understanding this brings your prayer life to another level. For you, when you understand what I'm saying, this takes your prayer life to another level, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why I say that prayer is proclamation of the word of God. In that proclamation of the word of God, you're reminding God of his own word. So to remind God of his word, what does it mean? So when you come to a place of prayer, it's not only fellowship with God. Of course, the highest, pay attention to what I'm about to say. Of course, the highest dimension of prayer is in dimensions. And the highest dimension of prayer is the prayer of intimacy, the prayer of fellowship. The prayer of fellowship, the prayer of intimacy. It is that prayer of fellowship with the Lord, because initially prayer was not created for us to ask things from God. It was a medium, a system that was established by God as a medium of communion, of fellowship, of companionship, of an exchange between creature and the Creator. And for us to continue, you see, in the Garden of Eden, there was no Adam never had requests. When Adam never had any prayer request, Adam, all he did is to enjoy the presence of the Lord. All he did was fellowship with God. He had no requests. You see, now prayer requests came as a result of man's falling. So you see, because why? Because God had entrusted so much authority and power and dominion to man. But where there is power and authority, ladies and gentlemen, also there is great accountability. Where God gives responsibility, there is also great accountability. That's why one preacher joked and said, but it was very profound. I had this man explicitly and actually very simply put a word that has never left my spirit. He said this: you see, the Lord learned a lesson from the book of Genesis, never again to give womankind something he has never asked. Because in the garden, when he gave Adam Eve, whom Adam did not ask, Adam blamed God after he ate the fruit. And God came and asked Adam, where are you? Are you hiding? Did you eat the fruit? Adam told God, well, I am hiding here because, I ate the fruit because of the woman you gave me, not the one I asked, the one you gave me. So Adam blamed God. So this preacher was saying, God learned a lesson from the book of Genesis. Now, when Jesus came, he said, hang on a minute. In the garden, you blamed me for what I gave you. Now, in the New Testament, Matthew 7:7, ask and you will receive. Seek, you will find. Knock and the door be open unto you. So in other words, whatever you ask and I give you, if it is choking you, you don't blame me for it, because you asked me. Dr. Miles Monroe used to say, be careful about what you're asking from God, because he will do it. Now, God learned a lesson. Why? Because that is taking me to the step number 2, that God, number 1, has bound himself to his word, so he answers you to prove his character. So when we say we are reminding God, somebody has put it there ahead of me for me. Thank you very much. When we say we are reminding God of his word in prayer, what are we reminding him? We are actually appealing to his character. So when you come to a place of prayer, besides prayer being a place of intimacy, a place of fellowship with God, our conversation that we have with God, prayer is also a place where we remind God of his character. We are appealing to his character. So when you are proclaiming the word of God, you are reminding God of his character. You're reminding God of his nature. And this is very important, because when we exercise faith, remember, you cannot pray without faith. Without faith, Hebrews 11:6, no man can please God. So therefore, when we come to a place of prayer, we come in by faith. But faith means what? Faith means to put your trust in the trustworthiness of God's character and nature. Just like Apostle Moses today is sitting on his seat, or where you're watching me from, you are seated in that seat. And since we began, I didn't see you panic that you're going to fall down. Some of you are lying on the bed. If you are lying on the bed and listening to me, but guess what? You're not actually panicking that you're about to fall off the bed, because you have put all your trust in the trustworthiness of a bed or a chair that has got your back and you're not falling down. So you see, faith is to put our trust in the trustworthiness of God's character and nature, that God will never lie. So that's why when you come to a place of prayer, initially, you must put your trust in the trustworthiness of God's character, God's nature. God does not change. And that begins there. Because if you pray without faith, you're not praying. You are only engaging in self-talk. To pray without faith is to engage in self-talk. You're talking to yourself. You're not talking to God. You're talking to yourself, or you are passing time or clocking on time, but you're not praying. So it has to come from the place of faith. But for you to come, prayer to come from the place of faith, you must have an understanding of God's nature. And it is the word of God that reveals the nature of God. And when you put your trust in that nature, you come back to God, reminding him of his nature. So that's why you are putting God in a tight corner. So when you are, no matter how long it may take, because you understand, God understands that there are certain things that you are asking today that may be bigger than your present maturity. I repeat, there are things you may be asking from God now, but they are bigger than your present maturity. What God does is to allow you to go through the process of maturity, so that what he has given to you does not eventually manage you, but you are the one who manages the miracle. So that's why in the process, many times we say, but Lord, according to what I've suffered, I'm really, I am mature now. I feel like now I am mature. I cannot leave you. You don't know you more than God knows you. Nobody knows you more than God knows you. So God knows exactly where you are at. So now we're talking about prayer. We say, so prayer is proclamation of the word. It's reminding God of his nature and character. And prayer, in other words, is to put God in a tight corner. What is prayer again? Prayer, another aspect of prayer. Prayer, I'm defining prayer for you. Several definitions of prayer, as you know. So more than being a conversation with God, more than being communication with God, prayer also is cooperation with God. I hope you're listening to me. Prayer is what? Cooperation with God. You see, we need to understand. Let me actually finish the entire sentence. It will be like this. Prayer is cooperation with God in order for you, is cooperation with God in the translation or downloading, of his will here on earth. So you see, Jesus, when his disciples asked him, teach us how to pray, and he begins to present unto them a system, a mode, a supernatural system and mode of prayer. But in that mode, he reveals a deep mystery. He says, when you pray, say, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, your government, your power, let it rule here on